Trump is not making this stuff up. He's citing what everybody has known, every competent lawyer out there has known since forever and a day ago. Racial discrimination is racial discrimination. It doesn't matter how you slice it.
Renegade Online.
This was from last week, just a few days ago, matter of fact. Mark Mitchell, the great Mark Mitchell from Rasmussen, our friend. Thanks for joining us again. Mark was able to be here earlier this week. Had a great show. Mark Mitchell, Trump literally just ordered the federal government to make an example out of some large corporations engaged in DEI. Read the bottom. Now, this was from Trump's memorandum about nixing all of the DEI stuff at the federal level. Departments are gone, personnel are gone, freeze them, put them on administrative leave, basically paid vacation, okay, until they can figure out how to unwind them from being employed. I want everybody to read this. This is from Trump's memo. This is what Mark Mitchell from Rasmussen is highlighting here. A plan of specific steps or measures to deter diversity, equity, inclusion programs or principles, whether specifically denominated DEI or otherwise. And we've seen these stories all this week. We've seen these people in federal government trying to change their titles, trying to change the names of their departments. They're trying to hide. They still want to run the scam. Trump didn't walk in here this time to be stupid. He knows what you're about to do, and he's already on top of it. That constitute illegal discrimination or preferences. As part of this plan, says the Trump administration, each agency shall identify up to 9 potential civil compliance investigations of publicly traded corporations, large non-for-profits or associations, foundations with assets of $500 million or more, and the list goes on.
Sounds like a company I could name.
Who do you think is look at all the companies this week. This company's dropping it. We're dropping DEI. We're dropping DEI. They put it on. Trump is not making this stuff up. He's citing what everybody has known, every competent lawyer out there has known since forever and a day ago. Racial discrimination is racial discrimination. It doesn't matter how you slice it. And especially after the Supreme Court decision last year with the famous Harvard case that we've talked about a number of times, kind of makes it very clear that making decisions at the big level based on race or gender almost exclusively is a big no-no. Disney, again, and Trump's made it clear, it doesn't matter what you change the name to. If you're going to have race-based hiring, we're going to find out about it. We're going to come after you. We're not going to have this anymore. That doesn't mean, because people like Sonny Helston are going to get bent out of shape. Thank you for the 1,000 likes out there. I just caught that. People like Sonny Helston are going to get bent out of shape about it. But the fact of the matter is, nobody's telling these companies not to hire people who aren't white and aren't men. But you can't hire people who aren't white and not men, or you can't hire people who are white and are men just because they are what they are. That's the point. That's the point.
So if people want to know how quickly the corporate landscape is changing, Amazon dropped its DEI stuff. Amazon, Jeff Bezos, Bezos. How much money is Jeff Bezos worth? Well, he's not worth enough that he wants to fight the government.
Go billions.
Disney doubled down. Disney doubled down on Friday. Because if I'm Disney, I don't think they were up against a deadline. They had a little bit more time. If I'm Disney, I strike all that out. But and I'm not sure about this. People are saying that Bob Iger went and kissed the ring of Donald Trump. I'm not sure about that. I think that Disney is setting themselves up. I think they're right there with Microsoft. If you were looking for the two big companies that consider themselves to be les résistants, I think it's Disney and Microsoft. I think they're ready to battle, but I don't think that's something that shareholders are going to enjoy.
Yeah, and I mean, look, and a lot of these other companies, including Amazon, we know that the people in these departments really aren't necessarily going away. They're going to get renamed. They're going to get retitled. They're going to be shuffled under something else. We've already seen it. Let me tell you right now, if the people at the federal government are doing it, then the ones that are being, removed from, You know, we don't, the FBI, the U.S. Treasury Department, the Department of Justice, for God's sake, definitely doesn't need it. But every little nook and cranny, every little stupid federal agency out there does not need to have a vice president in charge of diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's retarded. That's a waste of money, and that can all be going away with tomorrow, which it is right now. Trump's getting rid of it. But what I want to point out is that they a lot of them, because we've caught them online, right? A lot of them have started retitling their job positions and retitling, like we said before. So that's going to happen in Amazon too. That's going to happen everywhere else.
That's stage one of what's the process? The grieving process. Like that, if you were to look at the corporate structure and what they're doing, they're following the grief process exactly. What do? You bargain first, right? That's one of the first stages of grief, is that you don't want it to be true. You don't want it to be true. And so you're seeing that played out at the corporate level. So it is no surprise that the first step is they attempt to reclassify, rename, all of that sort of thing. But that's not going to work. And they're going to have to they're going to go through all the stages of corporate grief until they get to acceptance. That's the final stage. And I think it's going to be a very condensed series of stages, because I don't think that the big execs, I don't think they have time to sit there and wait for this to play out. Like they've got to get in compliance, because clearly if you're discriminating, you're out of compliance.
Well,
that's not going to be allowed.
I think we all know what Disney's modus operandi is, right? We all know what their typical flow chart is for working through a problem.
Well, real quick, to go back to what you said, I don't mean to interrupt. This is so important. You said that if Iger wants to go anywhere after Disney, it would be the California governor position. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but if you're looking at what Disney's doing, Valiant, I think you've got your finger on the pulse here. Why would Disney be part of Le Resistance?
Right.
Well,
that's
exactly.
We did this when he was rumored to run for president in 2016 for the Democrat nomination. That's when Disney started swinging hard left.
Right. There's no financial incentive into this.
No, but what there is, Disney is going to look at this the same way that they look at pretty much everything they've ever encountered. Every time they've had an issue, Gina Carano. Let's go right for that one, because that's the example everybody knows. How about the state of Florida? Ron DeSantis. What was Disney's argument in court? Why we can do whatever we want to do. What was their argument in court, Pro?
Well, they had the argument that their free speech was being stepped upon.
That's it. First Amendment, right? We're an entertainment company. We're a creative company. So, we have the ability to create the entertainment and do our artistic expression free of blah, 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 blah. Like this, again, this absolves Disney of having to comply with federal law because they make movies, which, of course, we all know is a bunch of bullshit. They wanted to get away with whatever they wanted to do and take over an entire private government in the state of Florida because First Amendment, because the arguments from Disney, the legal arguments oftentimes are absolutely absurd. And that's exactly what they're going to do here. They're going to say that, no, we want to put racial quotas in. I'm just telling you, this is what you're going to hear from them. They're going to challenge this by saying we want to continue to have racial quotas working in the creative side because we want more black, female, lesbian voices.
The problem, and I wish we had Ron here to clarify this, the problem is that is a legitimate thing that they could argue if it is casting roles for movies.
Right.
However, when you're talking about the grips, the cameramen, the writers, etc., well, maybe not the writers. You might could argue it on the writers, but everybody that's in a technical position, you can't argue that.
No,
and you
technical position,
argue it for bonuses.
Executive position, anything that's not a strictly like, it's one thing to go out. And again, remember folks watching out there, most of the time when Hollywood goes out and they hire a writer or they hire a director or a showrunner, they're not employees of Disney. They are contract labor typically. They hire them out, 1099 them because they're there for that project. It's a limited run kind of thing. Now, of course, Disney does have creative executives, but that's where I think the line is going to get drawn. Like, okay, does a casting director or a creative executive who's not writing a show, who is overseeing maybe production or something along these kind of lines, that's where the line is going to get tested, right? Hiring a writer, hiring a director, that's one thing, right? Artistically, I agree. They can do whatever the hell they want. That's fine. That's how we get things like The Acolyte. But in this case, Disney, I think, will test the line with the First Amendment thing. And I I believe they have a legitimate argument in terms of, they want to hire a showrunner or a writer for something like this for the fill-in-the-blank experience. Fine. They're not going to be able to get away with it when it comes to hiring who are the largest segment of employees at the Walt Disney Company?
Or in terms of demographic, or in terms of the type of work?
Type of work.
Cast members.
Cast members in the theme parks. They're not going to be able to get away with that for cast members. Right? Now, you can say at Epcot, like Disney's been doing for years, nobody's going to complain that Disney gives internships to Japanese girls to work in Japan in Epcot. Nobody's complaining that Disney is giving internships or paid positions for Latino women and men to work in the Mexico area. I mean, that again, I'm using like the most glaringly obvious example, clearly, right? That kind of thing makes sense. But when it comes to the rest of the cast members, you really want to set racial hiring quotas there? You really want to test that line with the federal government?
Every day I'm shocked, and I'm not giving this as advice to anybody, but I'm just shocked that more people do not file lawsuits against Disney for, hostile workplace and, discriminatory actions. Because you think about it, Disney has created a system where they sort of, they self-congratulate inside the company when people of quote unquote diversity, and that means not a white male, rise up. Well, what does that mean for the white men cast members or anybody in any division of Disney, right? The converse must be true, and the converse is illegal. And so you would think that there would be, but maybe it speaks to just how intimidated some people must be of the House of Mouse, because it's got to be very scary. Even if you're a Floridian cast member, it's got to be scary to think I'm going to take on the Walt freaking Disney Company, which I don't even like to say. I'd rather call it the Bob Iger Company, because I don't think Walt would have ever permitted anything like what we see today out of his legacy.
Yeah. No, I don't think so. But this is where we are. I think Disney is going to test it. I think they will get creative. I think my prediction would be that we will see Disney. I think they will tone down the use of some of that verbiage in their financial reporting. I think we'll
late this year.
Well, it's in the proxy statement, but they will start anew with the annual shareholder meeting in about a month or two. So I think now here's the thing. We see the proxy statement. Let's see how much comes up during the earnings call. Usually DEI is not brought up terribly much during an earnings call anyway, even for Disney. Now, usually with their annual shareholder meeting, they love to talk about that a little bit more handily. But let's wait and see to see what kind of changes. And again, the changes with Disney are always subtle. Disney never comes out and admits anything. Every Mickey Mouse's farts always smell like roses and sugar pop. Nothing's bad over there ever. We never make mistakes at Disney. We just quietly change things when you're not looking in the middle of the night. Then you wake up and you realize what happened, like pulling out all the gay transgender stuff from Inside Out 2. And from the other Pixar thing that they had coming out on Disney Plus recently about the Little League baseball team or whatever. That nobody's watching that either.
And what did we say over and over, Valiant? We said over and over for like a year straight. All they have to do is make sure that Moana 2 isn't woke. It'll make $1 billion. What are we seeing time after time? If they strip out the woke, no joke, you'll make lots of money. Because, and by the way, you brought up Mark Mitchell. Rasmussen has done a fantastic job of covering this. Even though Disney has run off 1/3 of their consumers, and that 1/3 is not willing to forgive Disney because of inflation, if Disney simply stays away from divisive content for kids, they can still make $1 billion with their content.
Yeah.
They can't do it if they go woke. If they go woke, you're talking about there's like a $700 million chasm between what happens if you release Strange World versus Inside Out 2.
Well, more than the Strange World was like $50 million or something like that globally. I mean, it was terrible. But, it's bad. And, of course, that's at the retail level. But, yeah, I mean, people have to learn to trust Disney again, and it's going to be a slow, hard climb if they keep pumping out, bull crap in the middle of it to offend everybody.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.